Hey, this is Brock with Straight Line Delivery, giving you a video about the latest on Dodge Ram and another reason to yet again stay away from Dodge Ram. In the past, they have not been great trucks, not because of the motor, but because of everything around the motor. Doesn't work right. It reminds me of my 2002 F350. I had a 7.3 Power Stroke. And all the old timers told me, that's a 1,000,000-mile motor, son. You can put 1,000,000 miles on that motor. And they were right. So you would think, well, obviously that's the truck you want to buy, especially if you're going to hotshot. You want a 1,000,000-mile motor. Well, not so fast. The block, the long block specifically, yes, you're going to get 1,000,000 miles on that truck if you take care of it. And here's why. It's a great big displacement motor. It's basically a detuned dump truck motor. So instead of putting out tons of high pressure and tons of power, they tune it down, they stuff it into a little 1-ton truck, and it doesn't have to work that hard. So yeah, the block can get 1,000,000 miles on it. Well, so what? That doesn't help you if you're broken down with junk transmission, just a weak transmission. If your power steering pump is junk, if your ball joints are trash, if your torque converter is trash, the exhaust flanges leak from factory, almost from factory. You have to get a modified, if you just replace them, and this is the other catch, if you just replace them with the Ford, go to Ford and say, hey, I need new exhaust manifolds, they'll give you the same ones that'll leak in a matter of months. You have to go to International, buy special flexible exhaust manifolds so you're not smelling fumes the entire time you're in the truck. So just like with Ram, who's got a Cummins, and Cummins is the best thing in the world, right? Well, not if it's in a junk truck. And Dodge has the cheapest truck that you can buy out there. And there's a reason for it. There's ways to save money making cars. I was in the auto industry for quite a while, in the steel making industry. I machined parts for Delphi, which supplied to General Motors and a few other big names. I also worked at AK Steel. I produced steel for General Motors, BMW, Ford, you name it. And I saw some of the quality controls required by each company. It made me a big fan of Toyota cars and trucks because they'll reject something that Chevy or Ford would take in a second. So I got to see a lot of behind the scenes with how the factory reps required us to make parts. All that to say this. Don't be brand loyal. I thought Ford was the best thing in the world as far as cars were concerned until I started making parts for different places. Then I realized, Toyota and Honda actually are much better quality vehicles. Just like a Honda's better than a Harley. It's not as cool. It's not American made, but if you need to ride across the United States with no problems, I'll take a Honda any day. So I'm not brand loyal. But the problem I'm seeing with Ram now is their half-ton trucks already got busted for being non-compliant. And I didn't even look into it. I don't know what the issues were there. But what I have noticed is people complaining that they had a half-ton Dodge diesel, EcoDiesel. Then they went and had it fixed, right? So it would be compliant. And then they got it back and it's weaker. So it doesn't have near the pulling power that the truck that they bought off the lot did. But now it's compliant. So I'm sure you can't see this. This is from USA Today. This other one is from let's see, Green Car Reports. Never heard of it. But they both say the same thing. 1.675 billion with a B fine for Cummins for basically cheating. They cheated. They took a motor, they built it. They wanted it to have more power, so they cheated the emissions. So after cheating the emissions and putting a truck out that still didn't have as much power as a Ford, they got caught. Now they've got a great big fine. Okay. So what does that mean to you? You could say, well, I don't care. I just won't do the recall. I don't care. They'll make it so you can't get a registration on your truck eventually if you don't get it compliant. Also, it's not compliant. So if it hasn't been recalled, if you run in certain states, they could bust you for that. You're going to get a basically I would guess a form that says you're compliant, or the proof that you have been able to register your truck will show that you've made it compliant. All that to say this is a major problem for a company. Why would you want to be involved in the drama? So if you're looking at trucks and you're thinking, oh, buy a Dodge Ram. I see a lot of Dodge Rams out there. I see a lot of people pulling campers out there. Does that mean you can make a lot of money pulling campers? No. You don't know what their story is. You don't know why they have that truck. You don't know why they're doing what they're doing. As far as pulling campers is concerned, it's mostly retired guys who have a decent pension, have a decent retirement, and they want a nice truck to pull their personal camper, but they don't want to pay for it. So they go deliver 2 campers or horse trailers a month, and that pays for the truck. So they don't get paid, but the truck's free, essentially, because they've got all but, free time on their hands. Nothing but free time. This, if you're trying to make a living, is a major problem. There's 2 ways for them to fix the recall, and we already have a history of what they've done in the past on their half-ton. They can just fix the emissions, which means basically clog your motor up and make it compliant and less powerful, or they could dig deeper in their pocket after a $1.675 billion with a B dollar fine. After that fine, they could do whatever they had to keep your power and your torque the same and be compliant, or they could just screw you and be compliant and you have less power and torque. Now, I don't know how much less it's going to be, but I've seen the half-ton owners really complain that it's a lot. So they did all that cheating only to give you a weaker, more inferior truck, and they're taking time out of your ability to earn a living with their product because they cheated. Now, I'm not saying that somebody couldn't catch Ford or General Motors cheating and have the same problem, but as we know it right now, early January 2024, we know that Ram has been caught cheating. Well, Cummins, which same thing as far as you're concerned as a truck buyer. So that means that you're in big trouble. Speaking of compliance, this brings up another topic I have a lot of people ask me about. They'll say, hey, I've got this older truck, but I've done all these mods. Boom, 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 boom. And it's got 800 horsepower and this and that. And I say, don't use it for a living. Sounds fun to drive around town. I'm sure it's a cool truck. But you don't want to make a living with a heavily modified truck, and here's why. Everybody knows when you put more power to a truck, there's weaker links on down the line that you have to address, or else you'll screw up your torque converter, transmission. Maybe you'll twist a drive shaft, whatever. The list goes on and on and on, right? When you modify a truck and you're pulling freight all over the country, what do you do when it breaks down? You've got dealerships that can fix it like that if it's not modified, or you can wait on a mechanic that's not a dealer to hopefully get a modified part that you ordered shipped in so that you don't create a weak link. So you can't have all this power going to the truck, a factory torque converter, and then on down the line, you got this weak link here, a factory torque converter. That's where you're screwed. You can't put a factory torque converter in a truck that you've thrown 200 horsepower to. It's not going to last. Might get you home, but now you've wasted a ton of time doing that. You're going to have to do it over. You're going to have to wait for whatever aftermarket part that you've put in there to ship it to wherever you're at. Now you're staying in a hotel room. You're down how many days at, these trucks make about $1,000 a day. It's not worth the hassle and screwing around. So my advice to you is stay away from Ram. And if you own a Ram now, don't get your feelings hurt. They don't know you. They don't care if you live or die. Same with me. Ford, GM, they don't pay me to say anything, and they don't know I exist. They don't care if I die tomorrow. I'm just telling you what's best to do for your business as I see it, as someone who's been in business since 2011. Stay away from Ram. They're in a real pickle right now. And generally speaking, from what we've seen so far, when it comes time to make it right, the consumer is the one that loses because they get a weaker truck. They have to deal with recalls, and then how do you trade in a truck that everybody knows is much weaker than what it was advertised? I don't know where that leaves you. Stay away from them if you're thinking about buying one. If you've got one, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know if they're going to have some sort of, trade-in program, or maybe their fix will be okay. I'm not sure. So if you're in a market for a truck, just stick with Ford or General Motors product. Right now, that's what's hopping. If that changes, I'll be the first to say so, because actually, I like Dodge Rams. I like the way they look. I like their interiors. I like the way they drive. I think they're a cool truck. They just have too many problems. They've saved too much money, and they've got the cheapest truck out there for a reason. I'm guessing it's most of their parts suppliers are giving them inferior parts, and they just don't quite hold up like they should. So remember, I don't care what motor's in something. I don't care how many miles you can get on it. Downtime is downtime. So whether it's because your windshield wiper motor won't work or your motor is shot, it's all downtime to you. That's about it. So enjoy 2024. We're going to be making a lot of money. If you have any questions or comments, or you want to know my perspective on something, shoot us an email. I'll put information at the end of this video, and I'd be happy to answer your questions.